MMA Now, powered by Film On TV Networks.
I'm Brian Shepherd with MMA Now, here with Matt Perrault on Yahoo Sports Radio. How are you doing tonight, Matt?
Doing wonderful. Thanks for coming in, guys. It should be a lot of fun.
Hey, so let's get started right away. Conor McGregor completely stolen the hype from UFC 197. What's your take on that whole scenario?
Look, the UFC is making a large mistake. I think you end up having a guy who is your biggest draw. You could easily find him and move on. The UFC has drawn a line and said, hey, we're not going to allow a guy like this to dictate, but he's your biggest draw, and your biggest draw can dictate things like this. And Conor's become bigger than the UFC. They don't want to admit that. They don't like that. But if he's not on the card at 200, it's a totally different card, and I think it's a massive mistake by the UFC to not have him fight against Nate Diaz.
So Nate Diaz, going along with that, he's come out and said, if I'm not fighting Conor, I'm going on vacation. Do you think that's one more feather in the fighter's cap to kind of force the UFC's hand to do something in their favor?
Yeah, I think it helps to have Nate Diaz say that. It helps Conor's negotiating power to say this guy doesn't want to fight anybody else. I think Nate Diaz is playing the game a little bit there, and I think he understands he wants to make a lot of money, and the most amount of money he'll make is when he fights Conor. So if he gets that fight to be made, his payday will be large. If it's not going to be as big. So I think it's a money play for Nate Diaz versus anything else. He wants Conor, but he also wants the payday.
So moving on to the main event, Jones versus OSP. He's been called in the past, a fake in the past by Cormier and even by Evans. He's been very gracious and humble, talking and everything leading up to this. What do you think the fans are going to do after this fight, assuming he takes care of business with OSP?
I think you're going to see a huge fight between two guys that really either are amazing at promotion or really hate each other down to their core. I think it's the latter. I think they really do hate each other, and I think they're going to have a hell of a fight coming up at 200. I think that's the fight that's going to get made. As long as OSP is out within the first two rounds and Jones is not injured at all, you'll see that fight being made and being added to the card, which only increases 200 in the viability of 200, which is why I think you have to have Conor McGregor on that card as well.